So, good morning once again. We are about to start the second panel. The structure of discussion will be very similar to the first one. So, after introducing the panelists, I will ask them for a brief answer on a simple question. Then there will be an opportunity to go more into depth in their line of work. And after that, we would be very grateful for some questions, comments from the public. So, green transition is about economic growth and social justice. And energy justice means universal access to electricity. Green transition, without doubt, demands close cooperation, as we have heard in the first panel. Both Europe and Africa face a challenge of underinvestment into renewable energy and grid. Africa is diverse, and each country has unique challenges. The very same applies to Europe. The Nairobi Declaration on Climate Change and calls for an ambition target to increase the continent's renewable capacity fourfold by 2030 in comparison with 2022. This aligns it with the broader goals of COP28 to triple renewable energy capacity and double efficiency measures. The aim of today's discussion is to draw the attention of the importance of green energy transition for faster economic growth. That is why we are very pleased to have at the panel 3 representatives of businesses, 2 experts on energy, regulators, and a representative of the European Commission. Mr. Bahaa Abdullah is Executive Director and a member of the Board of Directors of Iskraemeco Group. Iskraemeco is a globally recognized brand whose solution can be found in over 80 countries worldwide. Established 7 decades ago in Slovenia, Iskraemeco has been delivering quality products, solutions, and services that make efficient energy use a reality. The company itself has considerably reduced its total carbon footprint by 70% in the past 10 years. It promotes awareness raising in wider population about the responsible use of energy. Ms. Florence Larbi, the Chief Operating Officer for the Environment and Sanitation Group of Jospong Group of Companies. She has contributed to the development of products, technologies, and investments in business models that impact positively in the green economy transition in Ghana and beyond. She is also a strong advocate for women's participation in environmental decision-making as an important intervention for tackling gender inequality, sustainable action, and climate-related inequalities. And the Jospong Group has its headquarters in Ghana, and it comprises of 60 companies, if I am not mistaken, and employs over 30,000 people, and it operates in many areas of work. Mr. Domenico Rosa is head of the unit INTPA A1 on the strategic partnership with Africa and the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States at the Directorate General for International Partnership of the European Commission. And as you probably know, the unit is in charge of the institutional relations with the African Union and of monitoring the implementation of the Africa strategy. Domenico has also led the EU post-Cotonou task force and steered the negotiations for the new agreement between EU and the 79 members of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, signed half a year ago. And he has extensive experience in external relations, a master's degree in economics and political economy and international politics. Ms. Awuor of Ofafa is a research associate in the field of green energy transition from the European University Institute Florence and a researcher at the African School of Regulation, currently situated at the Robert Schuman Research Center. She is also the CEO and founder of ACER Charging Limited, a microgeneration and renewable energy sustainable mobility company. Previously, she served as an electrical engineer at the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, KETRACO, and she was awarded the Head of State Commendation in December 2020 for her work at the company and mentorship of women in energy. She completed her Masters of Science in Electronic and Electrical Engineering in Glasgow, and she was among the 60 young African energy leaders selected to participate in the Open Power Africa Fellowship Program. It's mainly about regulations for universal access to energy. And Mr. Jan Kostevc, team leader in energy infrastructure in the Energy System Needs Department from the Agency for Cooperation of Energy Regulators. It is an European agency that has a seat in Slovenia. The agency itself was established in 2011, and it is an independent body to foster the integration and completion of the European internal energy market for electricity and natural gas, and of course, a lot of discussion and ways of thinking about also renewables. And Mr. Doug Kralj, last but not least, a member of the management board of BISOL company. BISOL has, in 20 years of existence, grown to the largest, as it is said, true EU-based producer of key component of solar PV plants, solar panels. It sells its products to over 100 countries around the globe and has created over 1 billion of exports. Thanks to BISOL, Slovenia is the only EU net exporter of solar PV panels. Mr. Kralj has been with BISOL in his capacity as member of the management board for almost 15 years. Before, he worked in financial sector, Bank of Slovenia, McKinsey, and he is proud to be the first Slovenian to earn a master's degree from Harvard Business School. So, very distinguished panelists, I welcome you once again on the podium. We have slightly more than 1 hour and many interesting panelists and many topics to discuss. Let me start with the first round of short warming up statements in one sentence. What comes first on your mind if I ask you, how can the EU and Africa partner for unlocking win-win opportunities in the green energy transition? Mr. Abdullah.
Thank you to give us this opportunity to discuss about the bridge between Africa and Europe, especially Slovenia. I see a lot of really areas which we can do, but I will be very short. First of all, transferring knowledge and bringing knowledge to Africa from Europe, bringing the governance, which has been also mentioned last panel. And we can also bring from Africa a lot of workforce, that they have a lot of resources, human resources. I'm saying that's always a human capital. Maybe just one information for your side, that the biggest, youngest generation or youth generation in the globe is in Africa. The median is almost 19 years old. So we have really a lot of human capital there, which we can build on, and how we can do that. Then the second part, which is very important, how we can build together on the green energy and the renewable energy, because they have a lot of resources in Africa. We have the brain and we have the knowledge in Europe, so we can work together how we can transfer the know-how, the knowledge, and bring that to Africa, and vice versa from Africa to here to transport, maybe to export the energy instead of having some scarcity of energy we have today.
Thank you so much. Ms. Florence Larbi, in one sentence.
Thank you very much for having me. I want to approach the question from what has been done. and not what can be done. So please, can I have my slides? Normally, there's a better appreciation when you see the pictures. So I want to give a little overview of what has been achieved in Ghana by Zoomlion. I will have to go very, very fast. We know what the issues are. That since 1961, it is estimated that the global insensitivity of global actions has led to 4% reduction in agri practices. And we know what the risk has taken us to. The way we are running, it is likely that we will not achieve the net zero by 2050. And so what did we do? My founder, Dr. Jospong, said something. He says that building a formidable green future means we must reform, reimagine, rethink, and build ourselves. And that is exactly what he did by building partnerships. So in 2006, there was the birth of this new waste management company called Zoomlion under the Jospong Group. The Jospong Group is the conglomerate cutting across 14 sectors of the economy of Ghana. This was the situation. Waste heaps was all over the place, burning of the waste. And then we came in to adopt a simple but a local solution. As much as we wanted to solve the issue of the environment, cleaning the environment, we also tried to look at employment. So there was a program called Youth Employment by government, and so a number of youth were employed, and they were asked to sweep the environment. And so they do this daily. That way, the environment is clean. And so we had to dignify the whole profession, because normally not everyone wants to work in waste, and then waste is given to people who do not attend school or who are not literate. But then we roped them nicely, used a tricycle. That was the beginning. Also looked at the beaches, cleaning of the beaches. So as we went ahead, we also looked at how waste was hauled. This was how waste was hauled in my country, donkeys, and then all sorts of carts. Then we came to storage. With storage, we provided bins for every household. These bins are actually made from broken plastics from the environment. So the bins were produced by our own company and then distributed to the people. Now we had to date deployed 1,118 compaction trucks to 261, starting from the tricycle. The trucks then came in. And then with the trucks, we also saw that our settlements were not conducive for some of the trucks. So we also brought in three-wheelers, three-wheel drums and tricycles to look at waste collection. Now, from the collection, we went to transfer. How do we transfer so that we minimize the emissions into the environment? So then these bigger trucks collect from the smaller ones, and then they are hauled easily. Then we came to treatment, because then we were looking at the linear model. So we just collect and dump. But then with time, we moved to treatment. And this is where we sought collaboration from the European partners. So here, our waste characterization was heavily towards organic. It was 62% organic. So we started looking at composting of the waste. So we produced organic fertilizer. So we used a Hungarian exam. We also came to seed bank here in Slovenia. So we want to acknowledge the Slovenian exam and seed bank for supporting to get some of these equipment. We also had Farm Tech coming in to support us with equipment for our rice production. And these are the equipment we have now that treat, instead of just collection and dump, we now treat, we recover some materials, the plastic, and then treat the organic fraction into compost. Now, we also have, so as you look at these pictures, businessmen here, we are opening you up for any form of collaboration. The ties are there. For now, we just do granulation of the ties and sell to other secondary companies. But then we want to get into more professional ways of, or advanced ways of recycling the tires. So these are stock of compost materials here. Now the plastic was a menace. The seas just gave up a lot of PET bottles that had been thrown into it. So what then did we do? We looked at how to wash and then package the PET bottles. So for now, we do washing and then packaging for export. So again, we are inviting more collaborations for treatment. So this is our factory where the dustbins are made. So when the dustbins are made, it goes to the household for waste storage. We collect, treat the waste. And so we formed a form of there was secularization of the whole process. Now, we didn't also only look at solid waste, we look at medical. Medical waste in the past was just dumped and mixed together with the waste. What did we do? We came to Ecosteril, a Belgian company. They supported us with financing, and now we have plants. We have 6 plants from Ecosteril, and we have 2 plants from France, that is Ecodas, in the country. Now, liquid treatment, this is what was happening. Let me put it back quickly, because it wasn't very good to see. So I've gone for this is the, so we built a treatment plant for the liquid waste, and here we use Pureco. Pureco is a Hungarian company, so we went to Hungarian Exim, and then we're supported to do this. And we get long-term financing over, let's say, 5 years at minimal rate of interest. So what we are saying is that, my African friends, it can be done. This is the oil waste. When Ghana had the oil find, we set up a plant to treat the drill cuttings, that is the oil waste, and that is also being done. The other interventions we have done to minimize the carbon into the air is to decommission old landfills. And again, this also came as a result of illicit or indiscriminate dumping. There were floods, and then we had to do dredging. These are dredgers that dredged silted waterways. Then we also went into rice production, and this is where FarmTech came in to support with equipment. Now, looking at the future, let me quickly rise to what so all we have done have supported goal 2, 6, 8, 9, 13, and 15. Then for the future, that is where today's meeting also becomes relevant. We have collaborated with a company from, this one is not EU, but well, we are still open for more EU interventions. We're saving 400,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide into the air. This is equivalent to 18 million trees. What are we doing? Our waste trucks are going to be turned into e-vehicles. They are going to be electrified. So all the components are going to be changed, and there will be no emission. We are earmarking 1,000 of these vehicles. This is going to save us 323 million of our fuel costs, fossil fuel. So we cut that. And so for now, we've also landed the positioning of what we have done, attracted the Swiss government, and came to sign an agreement on carbon trading. So we have signed this agreement from 2023 to 2030 for an amount of 35.6 million. And we are going to reduce emissions by 2.7 million tons. And the waste we are going to use is 2,600 tons of waste per day. So what are we saying? Towards 2030, we want to go completely circular. We started with the linear, that is the first line, and then the second somehow with a little recycling. And then with the third one, completely circular, so we produce, use, and recycling, go back, all the materials that we recover from our plants, go back into the production system, and then the circular economy goes round and round and round. What we are saying is that we are looking to investors into refuse-derived fuels, PTL, plastic to diesel. We are also looking at solid-derived fuels. This has started, but not on a commercial basis. So we are looking at EU coming on board. What are we saying? Although these were some of the challenges, we surmounted these challenges to at least do something for ourselves. And what we are saying is that action, action, action. The talking is good, but the talking is becoming too much than the action. We want to approach it with action. And so as we are here looking at renewable sources of energy, we are looking at what has been done and what can be done more. So we are ready for any kind of collaboration to take us forward. Thank you very much. Together, we can get where we want to get.
Thank you very much, Ms. Larbi, for you really pushed us into business, into real business. You said you're looking to the EU coming on board. So I will also somehow skip the first question, but Domenico, please reply to it if you fit so. But I would ask you, EU and Africa have both committed to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and Paris Climate Agreement. And green transition, we know, is a key for delivering more future-proof industrial growth and more jobs for both Africa and Europe. What is the EU approach in this regard? We have heard in the first panel a little bit about the Global Gateway. Team Europe initiatives are there. But how can Europe, because sometimes we also hear about the need to facilitate the risking of investing in Africa. So it is really a very, very broad question, but I'm sure you will be able to reply in 3 to 4 minutes. Please go ahead.
Okay. No, thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. So yes, the question, by the way, is very broad. So in the previous panel, I think that they outlined it a little bit what is the policy framework that is the Global Gateway, that is covering not only energy, but plenty of other sectors, such as digital, infrastructure, private sector, development, and so on. What I could say, I think that energy, and in particular grid energy, is an issue where we can have a convergence of interest between the EU and Africa. First of all, because, as it was mentioned, we cannot achieve the Paris Agreement target alone, and we need the support of other partners outside Europe. Africa, at the same time, need energy, because we cannot think that we can have an industrial development of Africa or a private sector development in Africa if the energy access is not there. And therefore, I think that there is an interest in having Africa creating the energy access, but in a green way. So not to go through all the hurdles that we are doing now when we are, I would say, adopting all the mitigation measures in order to reduce our footprint. So as far as energy is concerned, I think that what could be considered a flagship initiative that we have, and where we have this convergence of interest from EU and Africa, is the Africa Green Energy Initiative. It's a Team Europe initiative that is worth 20 billion euros, whose target is to allow 100 million of Africans to have an access to green energy between now and 2027, where we put together 12 member states of the European Union, and where alone the European Union is contributing for more than 3 billion euros as grant. Inside this initiative, we have plenty of, I would say, different different initiative and program and project. But I think that just to respond to what was asked to me, one of the main instrument is the EFSD Plus. That is an instrument that is helping to de-risking initiative in Africa. I think that one of the main problem in terms of investment is that there is a wrong perception of the too high risk of investment in Africa, that of course it retains our private sector to invest and at least new investors to go to Africa to invest in areas that they consider too risky from a financial point of view. Maybe I can come later to...
Yes,
okay.
Thank you so much. Energy transition is to a great extent dependent on investments in renewable energy and energy efficiency. Ms. Ofafa, what is the role of energy regulators in attracting investment, if at all? But please tell us more of how you see the current challenges.
Thank you very much for that question. I think a lot has been said, and I think with regards to regulation, there are several opportunities that Africa and the EU can collaborate towards this transition. But the first thing that I'd like to say that came up from the previous panel is that we have to address the elephant in the room. When we talk about transitioning with respect to the 600 million Africans who do not have access to modern energy, what are we saying, right? That is the question. What are we saying? What does that transition mean for these 600 million people without access in a population that is still growing, right? So there is a saying that, you know, Europe will have 1 billion neighbors in the near future, right? So what are we saying about that transition for them? Now, 600 million Africans do not have access to modern energy, including clean cooking solutions. These solutions to solving this problem might range from expanding the electricity grid as we know it, but also providing solutions with off-grid systems or mini-grid systems. Now, it's estimated that an additional 200,000 mini-grids are required to provide this access. The issue is that we do not have sustainable business models to support these mini-grids beyond the construction phase. So when you're talking about maintenance, what are the business models that are suitable to have these mini-grids go on and on to continue supporting and providing access? Currently, most of them are donor-funded, but maintenance is a challenge. To promote the development of one, the grid network, and two, attract private investment into the energy space, regulation plays a very big role. The volume risk can be taken over by private investment. So what kind of regulation can offer a suitable environment or a healthy environment to attract this type of investment, which then leads to economic development? I think creating stable and predictable regulatory environment is the first point of action, where investors can be able to predict, can be able to ascertain without political interferences or changes that regulation is supporting the sector. Implement transparent and fair tariff structures across the board for those who are in the least income areas or those who are in urban areas. Facilitating access to grid, and through power pool and power trade, which is something that the African School of Regulation is directly involved in preparing capacity building programs for this type of regulation within Africa. Promote innovative financing mechanism. Another innovative type of financing mechanism is the private investment in transmission infrastructure, which then can increase access through the building more transmission infrastructure. Ensure just transition. And when I say this, a cost recovery model is very necessary, and tariff structures, like I previously said, very necessary to ensure justice for those who cannot pay as much as others, right? Enhancing capacity in regulation is also another thing. Now that the African School of Regulation is working directly with regulators in Africa, with partners in Europe, to provide capacity building and in regulation within different topics. Some of them I have mentioned. This is an important part of the work. And finally, align with best practices while supporting research and innovation. And I think this is a big part that Europe has played and continues to play so far in our partnership. So just to summarize in one sentence, a pragmatic approach is necessary in the transition because Africa and Europe are connected due to energy, through energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. And we will continue on this path with Mr. Jan Kostevc. How do you see EU-Africa energy partnerships? We are connected somehow, although not enough probably. And how actually can this partnership be enhanced, especially in energy, of course?
Yes. Does it work? Okay.
Yeah.
I think what we should learn from is, for example, the European case, where we are now capitalizing on the fact that we are so well connected in terms of the energy infrastructure. I think further connections would only increase this capitalization, not just for Europe, of course, but also for those partners who would connect to the, let's say, for now, European system. Now, in terms of Africa, of course, I fully agree with what Kralj was saying. There is a need to invest into infrastructure. There is a lot of potential demand for electricity, clean electricity, which is there. And there is a huge amount of potential that Africa can offer, not just for their consumers in terms of renewable energy, but also for European consumers. There is one element which is a recent development also in terms of the European approach to this, because Europe always had this, well, not always, but for many years had the projects of common interest. So these are projects which are supposed to be common European projects, most important infrastructure projects. Now, Europe has turned the leaf to also look into the projects of mutual interest, which looks into the possibility of connecting the European energy system, the EU energy system, with non-EU countries. So here, of course, the door is opening also for concrete partnerships with Africa.
Thank you so much. Mr. Kralj, BISOL has a difficult task to compete in a fast developing and a very competitive markets. Solar energy, as we all know, has huge potentials and is itself developing rapidly towards more circular business model. It is said that Africa has the potential to generate 30% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2030. So what would be solar energy contribution to that part, to that chunk? And how do you see this development?
In my opinion, the 30 is too low. I would say that solar is one of the big success stories in the last 20 years, because from one of the most expensive or the most expensive renewable source, it became by far the cheapest. It's proven, and even without batteries, I believe that up to some 20% of solar in an energy mix, it's completely acceptable with the batteries. And with also with the additional specific that Africa provides, which is the more balanced production throughout the year and more balanced consumption profile with the production profile. That percentage can be, as you said, 30, or with the batteries even higher. But maybe combining with your first question, I think it is a generational opportunity and responsibility that we have ahead of us, and we better use it the right way. And here I believe that Europe can contribute hugely to these developments in Africa. I try to be straight, so please don't be offended if things that I say are not politically correct. But right now, Africa is being in our industry. What you receive in Africa is third or fourth rate products. Africa is becoming the whatever cannot be sold elsewhere in the world, it's sold to Africa, and this, I think, is the wrong approach. Wrong approach in terms of responsibility that the African leaders have in introducing the new technology, and it's a wrong approach in terms of the whole concept of something being renewable, reusable, and so on. So saying, okay, I get some really low quality panels that I'll replace in 5 years, it defies the purpose of the whole renewable concept. Panels, solar panels, I can speak from our experience, if of high quality, should last you 50, 60, 70 years. So don't settle for something that is third, fourth grade. Second of all, I do believe that, as I said, Europe has a lot to share in this sense. Solar has started in Europe. Solar has the most know-how, technical know-how. Solar has the most. Europe has the most regulatory know-how in this industry. So why not using that knowledge and applying it to, admittedly, different circumstances in Africa? We heard earlier of large projects being built in different countries and so on. Fine, but this is the past of solar. The future of solar is bringing solar to where you need the electricity. So it's dispersed production. So building it on the roof of your household, of your house, building it on the roof of your production facility, and so on. So don't settle for some old concepts that are trying to be sold to you. And last but not least, again, this might not be politically correct statement, but in the past we had discussions with European institutions that provide financing and a lot of times grants for African projects. We heard a lot of money is allocated for these things. I do believe that Europe has to be more demanding in terms of if or when such financial means are provided, that European companies participate in this. The whole world is laughing at us, at European Union, when we're trying to take the morally high ground in terms of, we give you money, but we won't get involved in how you use that money or who you use it with. When Chinese give the money, you bet that they want the Chinese technology to be employed. When Americans give money, it's the same. When Indians give money, it's the same. Europeans take the high ground in terms of we should not get involved in that. But only strong, economically strong Europe can be the leader, continue to be the leader, also in the energy transitions, in the renewables transition, also in helping other parts of the world go through that transition. And in that sense, I hope we see the game that is played, and Europe starts playing it along those lines as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very provocative thoughts, but I think they are very welcome because I think it's important to think what we are actually doing, and what we would like to do, of course, is strengthen partnerships to generate knowledge both in Europe and in Africa, and we have learned about very good project in your case, and so on that basis, of course, we can avoid things you have described, Mr. Kralj. Mr. Abdullah, you were very, very disciplined in the first round. So now I would like to give you the floor. Africa, as we know, is a leader in harnessing the opportunities of the global green energy transition. You have mentioned it briefly in your introductory remarks. Iskraemeco has recently, I think one of your colleagues, participated at Power Sector Engagement Forum in Sharm el-Sheikh. What needs to be done then for unlocking, it was about Africa's power potentials and how to unlock them. What is your views about that? Later, I would be glad to ask you also about how to unlock energy opportunities in Europe, because we are not doing the best job neither. But let's focus on Africa first.
Okay. We have limited time, so if you will ask me this question, maybe I can talk about this for 2 hours, but I will try to do it in 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So first of all, yes, we were in Sharm el-Sheikh. Our team was in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. And today, by the way, nowadays, our team, they are in South Africa for what's called the African Elite or the African Utility Day Week. And they are presenting our smart solutions, which were already developed, designed, and produced in Europe. And we are competing definitely, as Mr. Kralj mentioned, that's with the southeastern countries. But we see that the quality is the name of the game, and how you can sustain that as well is very important. From our side, what I can say that we can build, or how we can do the bridge between Europe and Africa. We have the Gateway project from European Commission or European Union, which has been started 21, and I think this is the total value is 150 billion euros. Then we have to see as Europe how we can help the African countries with such money, and as also Mr. Kralj mentioned, that we have to use also the European companies for that, not to leave it to other companies. Then we can transfer the knowledge. One practical example, which also my colleagues here discuss about it, that's the off-grid. What this means off-grid, that you don't need a very expensive infrastructure, that you need, I don't know, it's headline transmissions, but you can go for small villages and build the energy solution. The energy solution from the photovoltaic or from solar, then the storages, and as well as the connectivity with the villages, the houses in the village, and then you can also manage the what's called the smart infrastructure. So this is one of the main practical solution which we saw in Africa. This need definitely fund, because the African countries, they don't have fund, but that's the return of investments for such case, which we already analyzed, that's almost less than 2 years to get the money for such investments. Having said that, bear in mind that we have a huge opportunity there, because we have 600 million inhabitants in Africa. They don't have electricity. So then, if we will put this mobile network with the funding which we have from commissioning, and then I have to say that in our credit or export credit agency in Slovenia, they are really doing very good, and they are flexible in this case here in Slovenia. So we can analyze that and how we can move forward as a practicalities. The second part, which I see also, that what are the main issue for such business we have in Africa, that if we will deploy that, if we will do everything 100% correct, who will maintain that in the future? The maintenance should be done by the locals. If you will transfer the people from Europe to there, this will be too expensive to the countries there, and they will not stay there for long. They will not be allocated. So we have to train them. We have to teach them how they can do that. So as a social responsibility as well, maybe we can put a technical school, very small technical school, in some areas, to teach the young people there how they can do that and how they can maintain that forever, and how they can contribute to their society. So that's from my side how I see how we can bridge that and how we can do the relationship. Funding is very important. Definitely the political issues in Europe is hitting the business. But we have today, if we are assessing Africa as a countries, more than 60% of Africa are more stable than other countries all over the world. So it is really a land of opportunities. I see that. Third part, which is very important, which I would like to emphasize here, that for renewable energy or green energy, 90%, I will repeat the number again, 90% of the minerals related to the energy or green energy are in Africa, 90%. So then we can use that, we can build on that, not to leave it to other countries, that they can build it outside and export it to to Europe. And then we are just buying that from them as a final solution. I'm talking about Europe and Africa. And location as well, it's very, we are close. Europe and Africa also close. The Mediterranean Sea is the difference between us and Africa. So I think this is also a great opportunity to have that in the right way. I hope I was not too long. So thank you.
Before asking panelists for their further comments, I would invite you, a dear member of the audience, to pose a question. Yes, please. There. And then there, yeah. Okay. I will take 2 or 3 and then return to the podium, to the panel.
Thank you very much. My name is Boštjan Skalar. I will try to speak from my previous tenure that I used to be in a, let's say, investment business. You tackled a bit the question about investments and about sustainable investments. And this is, of course, the green transition as well, part of it. But what we faced is that, according to UNCTAD, there is 2.5 up to $4 trillion missing of investments to achieve sustainable development goals. So I guess Africa is the most vulnerable in this direction. So what would be done through this helping of institutions to Africa to achieve better and more stable, sustainable, let's say, investment environment that the investors, especially from the business sector, would be willing to go there and risk a bit? Because what we see is of, let's say, youth technology transfer towards Africa, wrong investments, more exploitation, and this is what I believe should be addressed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then there was, yeah, on that part.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Roland Adeshida, environmental scientist, PhD. Please, my question will be directed to Mrs. Florence, I think. So during your presentation, you briefly mentioned, medical and liquid waste. But it's like you didn't really say anything about that. Please, how do you take care of your medical and the liquid waste? That's one. And then secondly, I want to ask, apart from the contribution, partnership with the EU, is there any assistance from the governments of your country, in collaboration with your project? Thank you.
Thank you. And gentleman at the back there.
Bonjour. Je pense que présenter mes excuses parce que je vais m'exprimer en français. Je suis Moussa Zangaou et je viens du Niger. Et je suis de l'université Abdou Moumouni de Niamey. Ma question, qui n'est pas en réalité une question, s'adresse à l'intervenant, excusez-moi de l'expression, intitulé Intervenant énergie solaire, celui qui parle du solaire. Il parle des opportunités. Les opportunités sont importantes. Ce pays que je viens de découvrir, c'est une grande opportunité pour des pays africains qui ne le connaissent pas malheureusement. Moi, je le découvre. Mais l'opportunité solaire, je viens d'un pays du Sahel où l'énergie constitue un élément important et qui manque pratiquement à toutes les périodes. Et pourtant, c'est l'un des pays les plus ensoleillés au monde. Les premiers scientifiques inventeur de l'énergie solaire est de ce pays. Mais ce pays n'a pas bénéficié de cette invention. Je découvre ailleurs que la matière est très avancée. Je viens de découvrir les éloges qui ont été faits sur vous. Est-ce que vous pouvez être un jour au Niger, délocaliser une partie de votre matière pour mettre en évidence cette opportunité? Parce que tout le monde veut utiliser aujourd'hui le solaire avec la crise que peut-être certains d'entre vous connaissent de la CEDEAO où on a coupé le peu d'énergie qui est fourni au pays à partir du Nigeria. C'était la débandade, tout le monde s'est finalement intéressé au solaire. C'est un grand marché avec très peu d'offres. Et je crois que c'est une bonne offre qu'indique l'intervenant, excusez-moi du terme que j'ai intitulé « Monsieur le solaire ». Merci.
Yeah, merci beaucoup. I will now go back to the panels. Would Domenico wish to start? You can also comment, or you're welcome to comment on other panels, and then I will give floor to Ms. Larbi.
Sorry, I don't speak French, and I think I'm not the only one here.
Yeah, it was mainly about the opportunities of solar energy, how to harness that opportunities and use them locally as well, because especially Sahel is a part of Africa where a lot with plenty of opportunities for that one.
Yeah, no, okay, I will try to give an answer from my point of view. As far as the last question is concerned, I think that it was mentioned by Carol before. To attract investment, you need a safe environment. And in many countries, this safe environment is missing. Well, Sahel is a specific area. I think that Manuela knows perfectly how the instability of this country can affect the possibility of investing there. And then I think that the energy sector is a peculiar one, where the regulation is even more important than in other sectors, because of course there is question of competition and so on, and everything should be in a way well defined. So it's not question that countries that of course they have, I would say, huge potential in terms of renewable energy and solar energy cannot benefit, but it's the question that the environment to invest should be improved in a way or another through a regulatory system that is well done and is known and is respected. Otherwise, it's difficult, I think, for small and medium enterprises from Europe going there to invest. From our side, we tried at least to support this kind of investment by easing specific, I would say, financial constraint. I have to say that, of course, the European Commission and the EU is not a bank, so we have to go through the banking system and the development financing institution. But we put in place in the recent years, I would say, some innovative instrument, such as the de-risking for specific investment in specific areas and specific sector. And I think that the one of energy is one that is targeted, by the way. We have this initiative that is electrified, that is targeting in particular the off-grid energy production and distribution. We have other, I would say, windows that have been opened by the European financial institution beyond the European Investment Bank. We have national financial institutions that are operating in the development world. We have the question of the blending, for instance, for projects that are not sufficiently mature and that they need some, let's call it, ancillary investment in order to be viable, and therefore we can, through this I would say, blending facility, funds, I would say, activities that are related to the investment but cannot be taken into account or cannot be realized by the investor in order to make the investment viable. And of course, I think this is definitely something that is important. What I could say is that problem is not easy, and there is not one size fits all solution, but we try as much as possible to take into account the different specificities and to have a 360-degree approach that is moving from, I would say, the regulatory framework into the more specific investment, I would say, dimension, and in particular in the de-risking of the investment activities from the private sector.
Thank you very much. You have very well replied, I would say, to the first question as well. That was about sustainable business environment for investment. I will give you the floor, but I think I need to give Ms. Florence to answer the very specific question. But before that, I think when we speak about that local community or country where we are investing something, have something from it, it is not only about business environment, it's also about technological development, it's about raw materials, as already mentioned, so it's a very broad picture. But before returning to business environment, I will ask you for your opinion as well. Please, can you reply to the second question?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I would want to add my parting words to the question as well. It is true that Africa has challenges. So in all the discussions, we are bemoaning, blaming the West for dumping their issues on us. But how do we solve the problem? Yes, we want to collaborate. EU is ready. Africa has resources. Start from somewhere. So in answering your question as to what we do to the medical and the liquid waste, we started from somewhere. At least started with infrastructure. We had the land. Then we brought in the EU partners. So with medical waste, the Belgian technology uses microwave, and the plant is 125 to 175 kilogram per hour capacity. And we have 6 of them in the 6 cities. The target is to reach all our regional capitals because there's actually nothing. All the waste is mixed up. The medical is mixed up with the normal waste, which is not supposed to be. So we started something and then brought in our EU partners. They supported with financing by giving out the equipment and then taking payment over time. Now with the wastewater, same, liquid waste was just dumped into the sea. This we put an end to by bringing in Iskraemeco from Hungary. So Iskraemeco has supplied so far 6 plants, and so we have 6 wastewater treatment plants in 6 cities, and we are looking forward to providing for every city so that every city will have their liquid waste being treated. So you shouldn't sit down crying and waiting for something to, or sugar or honey to fall from the sky. Start from somewhere and then invite collaborators. They will be willing to support when they see that something has begun. And we also entreat our EU partners to also have trust in Africa. Have trust that we are ready to work together. And then when the two work, partnership will be successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kralj. It was about
I'll try to be
sovereignty,
short.
so,
The question on local communities also benefiting on this transition and so on. I'll touch on a comment that Mr. Abdullah said. It's do what this solar technology allows you. So dispersed production, do the small installations. When there are small and medium-sized installations, they will be done by local people. If there is a big 200 megawatt, 500 megawatt project, it will be a Chinese team coming for 6 months. They will build it, they'll take the money and they leave. Nothing will be left locally. For the small installation on your house, 5 kilowatts, or on your industrial plant of 200 kilowatts of solar installation, by definition, it has to be done by locals because it's so low value that you cannot bring your stuff from China or from Europe or from anywhere. So that will benefit development of the local installation community, the maintenance community, and so on, the transfer of technical knowledge, and so on and so on. A lot of benefits. Just let's do this mind shift, that this is a new technology that allows us, that forces us to shift also our way of looking at the energy production or energy transformation. It's not that the thermal plant that has to be by definition 500 megawatts. It's not a nuclear plant that has to be 1 gigawatt and so on. No, it's different. Let's use that to the advantage of the local communities as well.
Mr. Papa, you wanted to come in and comment on this, please.
Yes, really quickly. I know we have.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Perfect.
So I wanted to maybe add a bit more on the first question. Like I said, regulation is at the forefront of creating that environment that attracts investment. So looking at the different aspects of increasing access to energy, whether you're looking at the grid or you're looking at renewables, regulation is very important in attracting investment. Now, there is something being done about that. And like I said, the African School of Regulation is building capacity for regulators, for policy makers, for researchers, for engineers in Africa who are already working in energy access, to be able to instill the best practices, to be able to generate a body of knowledge that can be utilized within African countries, that can then drive that transition into regulatory practices that are suitable for attracting investment, be it in transmission, in distribution, or in the renewable sector. But let's be aware that one size does not fit all, right? So there has to be a lot of work done to create partnerships or to create conversations with those who've already done it. So looking at something like power trade and how the EU has carried out their transmission network and their power trade amongst the EU countries, that is something worth learning, and that's something that Africa can borrow and look at Africa as one unit that then can trade power between the different power pools that are already working to develop their own regulations. Just secondly, just to comment in general, that I think, like you say, it's time to shift our mind about how we speak about Africa, how we talk about it, how we think about Africa. I think it's very important that when we sit in these panels or when we're in these very important meetings, that the terminologies used, I think, also affect how we take, what we take away from the conversation. So I know that Africa is ready, because look at the projects that have been presented here today. I've worked and continue to work in building off-grid systems for electric mobility back home. Africans are working towards the solution, and the EU has supported that work, and there is an opportunity for working together to be able to create synergistic approaches. Putting restrictions or in the funding or in the flow of funding, I don't think is the answer, or saying that it has to be done this way. That will create more bottlenecks in this transition. I know one of our panelists said that, and I thought it was something worth mentioning, that when you say the world is laughing at the EU, it's not. Africa is not laughing at the EU, because we have 1 billion neighbors coming to the EU, 1 million neighbors that the EU will have in the near future. And I think working together now to create capacity, to create economic development, to create job opportunities will solve a lot of the problems that we are currently facing. So that, leaving that line open is an opportunity to then provide those solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Abdullah, what would be your view on business environment, how to strengthen it, and how do you see this cooperation? But I would like you to touch upon the issue that your company is very much engaged in public awareness, in the Penguin project. I'm a big fan. Green Penguin project. No, the point is that to teach kids in schools and to raise the awareness among wider population about the importance of recycling, about the importance of whatever you do in your home in order to be more green. Yeah, Tuto. Please.
Thank you for that. I will be very, very short and very simple. and I will go to the point, and I will be practical as well. So first point for Green Penguin, this is one project which we started almost 3 years or 4 years ago. Green Penguin is like a gamification or gaming for people or for young or for children, how they can learn about sustainability, how they can see how they can learn, how they can be more sustainable in the future. And what they are doing, we are teaching them how they can be more sustainable, and what does it mean for them if they will, for example, if they will grow a tree, if they will try to use electrical cars, how much penguins they can save inside that. And we connect that with our system, our metering, which we are producing to measure electricity and water, and how they can see from the solutions which we are putting, how much CO2 we saved, and how much penguins we can save. So that's in general, and that's with always with the public schools. We have till now, this is almost with almost 12 schools, part of them in Slovenia, part of them in Europe. We are not yet in Africa. We will be delighted to do that also in Africa. If any schools they would like to do that, we are ready also to do that as a social activities in Africa. So that's for Green Penguin, how we can save how we can be sustainable in the future. We have also a website for Green Penguin. I encourage you to go to see it. It is not for commercial, by the way. We are not selling that. So it is for just social activities. I would like to be practical a little bit for the first question and what we have here as how we can penetrate or how we can collaborate with African market between Europe and African countries. So first of all, I will give you just examples what we did already as a company. So first of all, we have a project in Tanzania that's almost 2,100 megawatt. That's a dam, hydropower plant or hydropower dam, which we are building there. Our mother company, they are building there. So that's a huge project. How we made it successfully? First, very good planning, very good commitment from the company, and show them the seriousness. We got also fund from European Union, and the government gave us a lot of facility there. And we also established the company there. Almost 99% of the people are from Tanzania. They are hiring today almost 500 people just for that. Next to that, we have a school that can teach them the know-how and then how they can run this project in the future. This one project, this mega project, we have another one, for example, as a solar panel in Egypt. That's almost, we are talking about 300 gigawatt, which is per hour, which can save almost 140,000 tons CO2. So per each, and deliver that to 140,000 houses. So which means that per house, you can save 1 ton CO2 per year. So that's the beauty of the sustainability as well. So you are supporting the infrastructure, you are supporting the environment, and it is very cheap. So how you can go to Africa? First, we need to understand the culture of African countries. They are not like Europe. Europe is not Africa, and Africa is not Europe. So if we need to do business together, we have to pave the bridge. We have to understand each other. We need to know how we can talk the same language. For example, if I will go to one of I'm African, by the way, originally I'm from Egypt. So if I'll go to any country in Africa and try to do a business, this will take for me a lot of time to explain, to explore how I can do it. And we have to be patient in Europe for that. And it will take some time to get the project. But once you started the business in Africa, it is like, I don't want to say that, but okay, it is like a Catholic marriage. Once you did it, then you will go, and they will go that always, because they will trust you. And then it doesn't matter that your price is a bit high. It should be relative, definitely, because they cannot afford a big budget, but it should be relative. It doesn't matter that you can compete with the Chinese or with other Southeast Asians, but you have to give them, to deliver to them also the support. What they are lacking, the support, and the funding as well. If you have the fund and they go there, you can get securities, by the way, there for funding, for either from government or for a stable companies, because definitely you need a local partner to work with you. So the local partner, you have to take the local partner as a strong partner that he can support you there, or she can support you there, or the company, I'm talking about the company, and then they can bring to you the business. Before last week, I was in Angola. I had a big project there, and we signed the contract for Angola. So this will continue like that. Once you go there, you have the good relationship. They see you. I'm sorry to say that we are not Europe and Africa. That will be a different story. By the way, okay, I will be also, I'm not politician, so I can say whatever I want. So if we discuss about, for example, about I don't know, about the colonies which happened in the past. So now they are sensitive about that. So they need a new countries that they can bring to them knowledge and know-how, not to take from them the scarcity of their raw material. They need also to convert that to something. They need a good life. They need a decent education, and all of that can be done definitely with the business. And I'm really big fan with the Gateway project. This is what we need also to build. We have a foundation. Let us build on that. We are discussing about infrastructure, smart infrastructure. We are discussing about also the roads, about transportation. That's how we can build the bridge between Africa and Europe. One very good example, which we are discussing. Do you know how many landlines in Africa? Phone landlines? No. Maybe 1%, 2% maximum. How many phones do they have? For each one, I think one mobile phone. So they jump it and they have the leapfrog, what's called the leapfrog. So they passed one of the European stage, which is instead of landline, telephone landline, goes to mobile. No, they went directly to mobile. This is the momentum now for Africa. We shouldn't think about the traditional ways to do business there. We have to see about what is the necessary for African markets, and then we can provide it to them. So thank you.
Thank you very much. This was a very nice concluding remark. A short round before we conclude. Any thoughts at the end? Because your company is doing exactly what Mr. Abdullah was speaking about. You mentioned cooperation with our seed bank, you mentioned Hungary. So any final thought in one sentence before we conclude?
I think I missed one part of his question about government sector. So I just remembered. Our government is providing the enabling environment. For example, there is the Renewable Energy Act. So in enacting acts and laws to set the tone for business sector to also thrive is what is also supporting. So our government is very supportive. There are about 7 laws around the climate transition or green transition, and that is also supporting. But then I wouldn't move away from my action, that the only way to address the crisis, climate crisis, is action. Action, action, action. The talking is becoming too much than the action. Let's take action. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Domenico?
Yes, no, thank you very much. To conclude, I would say that definitely green transition, green energy is a field of opportunity. Last but not least, from a strategic point of view, I think that both the COVID crisis and the Russia war of aggression against Ukraine showed how fragile are our systems. And therefore, I think that the strategic autonomy of both Europe and Africa can only pass through, I would say, a joint endeavor in allowing the two continents to produce and having access to green energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to conclude, I would say a pragmatic approach is quite necessary in the partnership between Africa and Europe in extending the green transition, or increasing the access to energy for those who do not have this success. Capacity building, technological transfer, those are all things that have been mentioned in this panel today, are key in this transition. What the work that African School of Regulation is doing is quite fundamental to this, and I would invite everybody to please attend our events and be part of this big change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jan?
Yeah, maybe what I would like to emphasize in terms of the partnership with Europe is that there might be some quick wins which are not necessarily best on the long run, right? So the projects of connecting Europe to Africa for the purpose of evacuating energy from Africa, green energy into Europe, might not be the best win-win situation for both continents. So I think one of the focus things for all of us should be to try to bring energy to all of the 600 million consumers in Africa, because that also increases then the industrialization and all that, right? So electrification is at the core, and for that, to do that in the cheapest possible way, not necessarily the quickest way, but the cheapest definitely, is to build infrastructure, is to build grids, Thank you.
Thank you. So many opportunities, so little time. So if there's anybody from the audience that has a suggestion how to make a day last 48, 72, or I don't know how many hours, welcome. We're definitely living in extremely exciting times, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for an interesting discussion, and thank you for taking time to listen to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the panelists. I think we learned again a lot from each other. We will really, as I have said at the end of the leaders panel, we will prepare some conclusions or key messages in order for us to help us follow up on the discussion. Before really concluding this morning part, I would invite all of you to have a lunch. It is served, buffet lunch served here outside the room, but then the tables are there. So because this is not a space big enough, so there is plenty of space there. And please come back at 2 p.m. We will be listening to a very interesting panel, 2 panels in the afternoon. So thank you very much once again, and enjoy.